They locked me in my parents' office to force me to save their golden child, but they forgot I work in compliance. Sign it, or you're not walking out of this house tonight. My mother didn't say it in a rage. She said it quietly, calmly. The kind of calm you only hear from someone who already built the trap and is just waiting for you to put your own throat in it. I was standing in my parents' office in Scottsdale, Arizona, still holding my purse because I hadn't even had time to set it down. My father walked to the door, turned the lock, and the oak wood behind me answered with one dry final click. Then he set a stack of documents on the desk. On top of it was a silver pen. My family never really had a symbol. Not a ring. Not a vacation photo. Not some heirloom recipe card. It was that silver pen. The pen used to sign every document I was never allowed to read all the way through. Bills. Loan papers. Just a formality sweetheart paperwork. Traps dressed up in family language. Out the window I could see my brother Landon's Range Rover parked crooked in the driveway. Headlights still on. He was here. Of course he was. Every time my family staged a financial execution, the golden child was never far from the room. Landon needs your help, my mother said. It's just a few temporary signatures. I didn't touch the pen. Help with what my father pushed the file closer to me. Your brother's company is under review. He just needs someone to stand in temporarily so the bank doesn't freeze the line. You've got clean credit. A clean work history. You sign and this all goes away. I glanced at the first page. It wasn't standing in temporarily. It was a personal guarantee. The attachment underneath made it worse. If the business defaulted, the signer would be personally liable for the full commercial debt, legal fees, and any related losses. The number in the top right corner was $487,000. I looked up. Landon leaned against the kitchen doorway like he was watching a show made for his entertainment. White shirt, new watch, relaxed face. He smiled at me with the expression of a man who had been raised his whole life to believe consequences were for other people. Don't be dramatic, Chloe, he said. I just need you to sign so the project can keep moving for a few more weeks. Before I tell you what I did with that silver pen, tell me in the comments. What's the worst thing a family member ever called just helping once? Because in my family, just helping once was usually the prettier name for a life sentence. My name is Chloe Mercer. I'm 31, and I work as a compliance manager for a title and escrow company in Phoenix. My job is simple. I make a living spotting the places where paperwork lies for people. A signature that doesn't match. Money moving too fast. The real beneficiary hidden behind cleaner names. What other people call details, I call fingerprints. Landon, 28, was the kind of man my mother liked to brag about at charity brunches. White teeth, good hair. Every sentence delivered like there should be music under it. He had opened what he liked to call a luxury wellness concept in Tempe, which translated into plain English, meant a velvet-wrapped gym with $19 protein cocktails, and a row of influencers pretending they lifted. 3 months earlier, he'd been on a local podcast talking about disrupting the fitness space. 2 weeks before that night, I'd gotten an internal email from someone I knew at a bank saying Landon's company had popped up in a review because of merchant chargebacks, mismatched contractor invoices, and money moving through. 3 different LLCs fast enough to leave smoke behind. I didn't say anything to my family. I just saved the email. Because that was my first rule, don't argue. Document. The injustice in my family started early. When I was 17, I earned a summer scholarship for a forensic accounting program at Northwestern. That same week, Landon got arrested for drunk driving after slamming into a wrought iron gate in Paradise Valley. My parents called my college fund a temporary loan so they could pay his lawyer. Temporary turned permanent. My mother cried and said the family had to prioritize the child in crisis. I still remember sitting at the kitchen table watching that silver pen roll across the withdrawal documents. That was the first time I understood the Mercer family rule. Anything that belonged to me only belonged to me until Landon needed it. So that night, with the door locked behind me and the silver pen waiting on the desk like a polished knife, I didn't panic. I just recognized the pattern. And in my head, a sentence clicked into place like a switch. Fear makes people stupid. I pulled out the chair, sat down, and started reading carefully. My mother mistook that for hesitation. Her shoulders relaxed. Landon smirked. My father poured himself whiskey. Their first mistake was giving me time to read. Their second mistake was letting me realize the paperwork was doing more than trying to make me save Landon. It had been put together too fast. There was a signature block for me on the last page, but on the third attachment under listed collateral, I saw my parents' cabin in Flagstaff and a brokerage account held in the family trust. That meant they had already put the house and the trust assets on the line to save the golden child. And the lender on the other side still didn't trust them enough to release funds without one clean person standing in front of the last blast. Then I saw something worse. On page 6 there was a blurry copy of a board consent. My mother had signed as the person who witnessed it. The member acknowledgement at the bottom had my name on it. I had never seen that page before in my life. I only needed one glance. That signature wasn't mine. The downstroke on the H was straight. Mine always tilted slightly left. Whoever forged it had copied the shape, not the rhythm. They had forged my signature before trying to force me to give them the real one. I set the stack down. I can't sign this. My mother changed tone instantly. Here we go. You always act like your brother is a criminal. I didn't say he was a criminal. I looked directly at Landon. I said this package is enough to trigger a compliance review at the bank, not to mention personal liability. My father tapped the desk with 2 fingers. Speak English. I looked at the silver pen, then back at him. If I sign this, I'm chaining myself to nearly $500,000 in commercial debt. And if the lender is already under pressure from risk, the file could still get frozen over beneficial ownership issues, source of funds concerns, and a broken chain of authorization. Landon laughed. You always love hearing yourself sound smart. I turned to him. Do you know why they need me? Because somebody over there already saw what you're trying to hide. His smile dropped for less than a second. Long enough. My mother stepped closer to my chair. Chloe, listen to me. Sign it. Tomorrow I'll make Landon pay you back. This is family. I looked up at her. Family doesn't forge my signature. The room went silent. My father straightened. What did you say? I flipped to the page and pushed it toward him. That isn't my signature. My mother's face changed fast. Not shame. Exposure. Landon stepped forward. Okay, fine. Somebody got things ready ahead of time. What's the big deal? That was when I knew I had won the first turn. Not the whole war. Just the first turn. When a stupid person gets scared, they choose between silence and self-exposure. Landon always chose self-exposure. I exhaled slowly, as if I were considering helping them. There is still a way to fix this, I said. But not with this package. All 3 of them stared at me. If the lender is about to shut him down, the only thing that buys time is a risk-curing package. An affidavit regarding source of funds. An indemnity. An estoppel certification separating which transactions belong to the company and which ones Landon used personally. Plus a written acknowledgement that any transfers from family accounts into his entities were done at his direction, not mine. My mother blinked. My father understood maybe half the words I had used. But he heard the one thing that mattered more than understanding. Hope. Can you do that? My father asked. Maybe, I said. If you want him not to drag the whole family down with him, I need a clean package. Real signatures this time. Full confirmations. Time-stamped copies. Otherwise, when the audit or civil claims hit, everyone gets swept together. Landon frowned. Wait. Why would there be an audit? I looked at him like I was looking at a fake invoice. Because your merchant disputes are spiking, your contractor invoices don't reconcile, and your money moved through 3 entities in 6 weeks. Did you really think nobody would notice? He went pale. Only a little, but I saw it. My father muttered a curse. Landon, what the hell is she talking about? It's just marketing money, Landon said quickly. Just online vendors. I cut in. Then you should have no problem signing. That was my second rule. If you want a liar to sign his own confession, don't corner him. Let him think it's armor. I took out my phone. I'll draft it right now. But because of the forged signature, I'm not doing paper anymore. We're doing electronic signatures with timestamps, and everyone gets a locked PDF copy. That way, everybody is protected. Protected. Toxic families love that word. They don't want the truth. They want plastic wrap around the lie. My mother nodded immediately. Landon hesitated, but he was already in the water and reaching for anything that floated. My father just wanted the nightmare to end before the neighbors saw a repossession truck backing into the driveway. I opened my father's laptop and logged into my secondary email. Nobody noticed my fingers shaking very slightly. Not because I was afraid of them. Because I was moving into the part of the night that couldn't be undone. I drafted 3 documents. The first was an affidavit of source and use of funds. Clean language. Direct language. The signer acknowledged that every transfer from family accounts into entities related to Landon was made at Landon's request, under Landon's control, and for Landon's direct or indirect benefit. The second was an indemnity and hold harmless. It stated clearly that I, Chloe Mercer, was not a managing member, not a beneficiary, not an authorized spender, and was to be fully separated from any debt civil claim or loss arising out of those transactions. The third document was the beautiful one, beneficial ownership and sole control certification. Buried in the middle was a sentence that said, I, Landon Mercer, certify that I am the final decision maker and beneficial owner of funds transferred into Mercer Active Holdings LLC, LM Brand Labs LLC, and Desert Current Media LLC. Any personal use, undocumented payment, or non-routine direction related to those funds was undertaken by me or at my request. In plain English, this fire is mine. Leave my sister out of it. I sent the package to the family email chain and quietly BCC'd my former lawyer in Phoenix, Marion Cole, along with a private backup address I controlled in the cloud. Then I did one more thing. I hit reply all on the old email thread from my bank, contact 2 weeks earlier, attached the new certifications, and wrote exactly one sentence. For records integrity, I am formally declining any guarantee position and documenting sole, Control source of funds, attribution and indemnity. Separation, as of tonight 9:42 p.m. I did not send it yet. I needed their signatures first. Landon read the documents on his phone and swore a few times about legal garbage, but finally asked, "If I sign all this, then the bank can't drag Chloe into it, right?" "Right," I said. "If you're the one really in control, sign." My mother signed first as witness to the fact that the transfers out of family funds had been made at Landon's direction. My father signed next, hand slightly shaking. When it was Landon's turn, he stopped at the phrase sole control. I looked at him, then at the silver pen. "You want me to personally guarantee your debt?" I said quietly. "Then at least be man enough to sign your own name under your own mess." He hated me most when I spoke without emotion, because then he had nowhere to grab me. No crying. No scene. No way to turn me into the villain through tone alone. He signed. The whole room seemed to stop breathing. I watched each completion notice appear on screen. One file, then the next, then the third. Timestamp, IP log, full execution copy. Then I picked up the silver pen. My mother exhaled in relief, thinking I was finally about to sign for them. I placed the pen tip over the personal guarantee page, paused, and drew one long line from the top left corner to the bottom right, straight through the signature page. A sharp intake of breath came from my mother. "What the hell are you doing?" my father shouted. I set the pen down, formally declining. Landon lunged toward me. "You said you'd help me." I did. I turned the laptop toward them. Now the record shows exactly who controlled this, who benefited from it, who directed it, and who did not touch it. That's the only help I owed myself. Then I hit send. It was a tiny sound, almost polite. But to me it was the sound of an entire rotten family system locking shut behind itself. My mother came around the desk like she wanted to slap me. I stood at the same time and stepped back just far enough that she couldn't reach me. "You betrayed your family." "No," I said. I stopped being Landon's last line of human collateral. My father grabbed the laptop. His eyes moved across the reply all message and his face changed from red to gray. The bank contact responded almost immediately. "Received. Compliance flag updated. No guarantee for Miss Mercer, noted. Lending review remains suspended pending counsel." The word suspended hit Landon like a fist to the chest. "You just killed my deal." "I didn't kill anything," I said. "I just refused to stand in front of the bullet." Then Landon's phone rang. He looked at the screen and all the blood left his face. I didn't need to hear the voice to know who it was. Lawyer, investor, short-term lender. The people on the other side of fraud smell blood very quickly. He answered, turned away, and said in a low voice that wasn't low enough, "No, listen to me. No, that's just my sister." No, I didn't wait. The call cut off. 3 seconds later, my father's phone rang. Then my mother's. Texts, emails, calls. Consequences started landing like hail. Landon turned back to me. "What do you know?" I looked at him. "Enough to know you used family money to pay fake influencer contracts, a long-term McLaren lease, 2 wire transfers to Nevada, and at least 1 quiet settlement with a contractor you stiffed. Do you want me to keep going?" My mother dropped into the chair. "Landon," he said nothing. "Truth is always ugly at first contact. Not cinematic. Not dramatic. Just a beautiful room, a beautiful family, and silence heavy enough to crack tile." I opened the photo folder on my phone and started showing them what I had saved. Screenshots from an influencer's Instagram story, where she accidentally tagged Landon beside the orange McLaren in a resort parking structure. Entity filings for the 3 LLCs. A copy of a creative consulting invoice that traced back to Landon's own apartment address. I had gathered it all in advance, just in case instinct was right. Not to save my family. To make sure that if they ever dragged me into the fire, I didn't arrive empty-handed. My father looked at his son like he was staring at a stranger. "How much did you take?" Landon didn't answer. "So I did. If you count the line of credit, the internal transfers, and the trust advances, close to $730,000. My mother made a small sound. The sound a person makes when they finally understand. They didn't raise a jewel. They raised a hole. 15 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Not the police. Not yet. A man in a gray suit and a woman carrying a black folder stood outside. "Counsel for the lender." They didn't come in. They handed over cards and instructed the household to preserve all documents, devices, and communications related to Landon Mercer and any affiliated entities. I stood behind my parents while my father opened the door. Nobody introduced me. They didn't need to. They knew exactly who I was. The woman looked at me once and gave a slight nod, the kind compliance people give each other when one of them has just managed to pull herself out of an explosion seconds before detonation. That was when Landon really lost control. He swept the paperwork off the desk. My father's whiskey glass shattered on the floor. My mother screamed. My father grabbed Landon's arm. Landon jerked free and turned to me, eyes red. "You like watching me die, don't you?" I looked at him over the broken glass. "No, I just don't want to die with you." About an hour later, I left that house. Nobody tried to keep me there anymore. I walked past Landon's Range Rover. past the manicured palms, past the carefully maintained front exterior my parents had used for years to hide every rot underneath it. I got into my car, locked the doors, and for the first time that night let my hands shake. Not because I regretted anything, because surgery is always uglier up close. 3 weeks later, the legal consequences started taking shape. The lender filed a civil action. 2 other investors joined. A credit card processor referred the file into commercial fraud review. My parents' attorney tried to negotiate them out of the blast radius, but the affidavit and indemnity package had done exactly what I built it to do. It separated me cleanly through timestamp signatures and chain of custody. Landon was forced out of operational control of the company. A forensic accountant was brought in. 6 weeks later, the matter was referred into Maricopa County, because the file now included evidence of a forged signature and false statements in lending documents. My parents were not handcuffed, but they were forced to do something that hurt them more than handcuffs ever would. They had to sell the Flagstaff cabin to cover part of the damage and retain separate counsel, because for the first time in their lives they could not say family and expect me to absorb the bill. My mother sent me a stream of texts during those first days. "You destroyed your brother. Do you know what the local papers are saying? Are you happy now that this family is falling apart?" I never replied. I took screenshots, saved them into a folder called Receipts, and kept living. 3 months later, I sat in Marion Cole's office in Phoenix signing the final acknowledgement that the civil file formally recognized me as non-involved while also preserving the record that my signature had previously been forged. In the package they tried to force on me, Marion looked at me over her glasses and said, "People think boundaries are emotional. The best boundaries are signed correctly." That was the first time I laughed in weeks. That night back in my apartment, I opened my kitchen drawer and took out the silver pen. Yes, I took it with me. Not out of nostalgia, as evidence, as a specimen. The instrument they had used for years to draw blood out of me and call it duty. I rolled it in my palm, watched the kitchen light slide over the cold metal body, and then set it down on the small paper shredder tray where I keep personal documents. No, I didn't crush it. I prefer more precise endings than that. I removed the ink cartridge, unscrewed the tip, reduced it to a polished, useless shell that could never sign another lie again. That was the part my family never understood. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need theatrical revenge. I only needed to make the tool they used on me stop working. And in the end, that's what I learned from that night in Scottsdale. Toxic families do not see you as a person. They see you as a walking credit facility. So if you ever find yourself in a room with relatives, a pen on the table and the words "just sign it," it's only a formality hanging in the air. Remember these 3 rules. Rule 1, don't argue with a lie. Make it sign its name. Rule 2, the person who benefits is the person who should carry the liability. Rule 3, financial boundaries are not about money. They are self-respect with a timestamp. And if you need one line short enough to remember while your heart is pounding too hard to think, let it be this: I didn't destroy my family. I just stopped being the wall that kept the bullets off their golden child.